And then we clean up Sherlock and we bring him back. There's a great scene where he's having a wet shave in Mycroft's office. And I think that iconic look then when he pulls on the coat, and I think it was almost like a James Bond moment, where he returned to all his glory, and there was a nice day of twisting and diffusing to get the girl back, which was lovely. Lovely Mary as well, who I don't think I've got any pictures of Mary, but we saw her in the restaurant when he's about to propose, and she had a fantastic vintage 20s style dress that costume had chosen for her. So that guided us with the look of her hair and makeup really, which I think she looked absolutely stunning. And obviously we've got the day look for Mary as well, so establishing her as a character was great, and it was lovely to have Amanda and Martin working together because obviously the chemistry was really strong between them. And she's a wonderful actress to work with, very easy to sort of take on ideas, and of course we go from there as well with her into a wedding look, which so it was so lovely to establish all these different looks with her. And we meet Jonathan Harris as well as Anderson, who has been in torment for 2 years and has grown a beard, and has lost his way a bit. So it was fun with him, just making him look a bit sort of dishevelled and a bit lost really. But he'd found his new Sherlock gown, so that was lovely, introducing them as well. So they were all good fun to work with. So moving on to the... Oh, was that Wiggins in that one, was he? Oh yeah, that's at the end. So with Mary, obviously, we then go on to the sign of 3, the wedding, and that was a very, very long wedding. Hours went on a bit, the days went on for 7 days at least. So obviously Sherlock and Watson, they were trimmed and coiffed. I think Sherlock's hair was a bit shorter than it had been. He's always trying to get it cut shorter, and we tell him no, but he had his way this time. Okay, so you're best man, so you can have a bit shorter. And Mary as the bride, I think, she looked absolutely stunning. We added a bit of length to the back of the hair, little extensions to add a bit of curl and softness. And then we met Sholto as well, who was a bit of a job for us. Initially in the script, he had sustained an injury, obviously at war, and initially it was just described as a sort of scar on his cheek, and that's how we were to recognise him. And then I think they all got different ideas, and I think the director became a bit more involved in the character, and he said, I think maybe you should have some more burns, but it was only a couple of days before we started shooting. And bearing in mind we had to shoot on this, I knew, for sort of 9 or 10 days, so for us matching that continuity over and over again, and it was a very hot week when we were filming as well. So I phoned up a friend, and he had some moulds that were used for skin acne conditions and all this, and I said, send me whatever you've got, because I need to do this by Monday, and it needs to be repeated over and over again every day. So he sent us various moulds, and actually these are 7 different sort of scarring techniques all put together with a silicone product, which is brilliant, because once it's on, it doesn't need glue or anything. So that's the sort of shape of the mould. So there were about 7 or 8 of those along his face, and down his hand and arm, and then they're coloured in afterwards. But it's a brilliant product because, as I say, it doesn't need glue, it adheres to the skin, so it's quite comfortable for the actor to wear. And actually, as the day goes on, it sort of becomes more part of their skin, with their own sort of movements and things, it sort of settles into the skin more. But that was about an hour and a half every morning, that makeup. So that was a big number for us. For the rest of the cast, I think it was a brilliant episode for them because they all got together, they'd have great fun, and I think there was a marquee in the garden of the location, And Rupert Graves is very wicked and very naughty, and he would start off some games. He's quite rude to Mrs. Hudson, to lovely Vienna, but she loves it. And they were in the marquee hours, and then poor Benedict would be in a separate room because he had such long dialogue. You know, I think he had 7 pages of dialogue to learn, so he couldn't join in the games. He was sat in a room by himself, all over his lines. But the others had a great time, and it was lovely to see them all together and all glammed up, really. And with the Sholto scars as well, because not all the upstairs of the reception where they run to save him at the end was a completely different location that we filmed sort of 2 weeks after that. So that's where it's quite important for us to match all the continuity with hair and makeup. So we take lots of photographs and notes of how the makeups are done. And then episode 3, I think we lead on to the last vow. For me, looking after Benedict, I think that was a big makeup job because he's with the homeless people first of all, with Wiggins there, so that was his normal hair. And then poor Wiggins had to undergo the worst haircut he's probably ever had. He was a really nice guy, and he came in with quite neat hair, and then I butchered it to look like his homeless Wiggins character. I loved it, I thought it was great. But he did have to walk around like that in his real life for about 2 weeks. So some cooperated. Yeah, so back to Sherlock. We went on such a huge journey with Sherlock on this, and Benedict and I did sort of sit down during the prep time and work out how we were going to achieve these looks. Because they're very subtle changes. You know, he's meant to have had a sort of drug thing going on again while he was in with the homeless people, so we showed that it's sort of reddening around his eyes and perspiring quite a lot. So when we see him back at the flat, it helped because it was really, really hot on the set. So he was very clammy. That helped me. And then he transforms for a short period of time into his iconic look again, before he then discovers Mary's truth, and he gets shot. So, yeah, that was in the makeup room. He enjoyed it, he put some music on, lay back, and I did have to shave his chest hair. I did wonder about putting it on eBay, but so again, there were very subtle changes, and because also we were following his... Don't put that one there too long. So that was him getting ready to go onto the operating table, and the bullet wound. So there's a bit of hair that I've shaved off there. So there were very subtle changes because in his mind palace, he has a different look. You might not come across on TV, but we worked hard, and there were very, as I say, subtle changes, but to us and to him, it meant that he could jump mentally from his sort of real life into what is happening in his mind palace, and particularly the fantastic scene where we meet Moriarty in the padded cell, you know, and the two of them there together, absolutely in a dreadful place. You know, that was great for us, and Andrew Scott was all for it. He said, "You go for it, whatever you think we need." So he was dirty, he was sweaty. You know, you wanted to make him look as if you could smell him, as if it was. So yeah, that was all good. And we meet some new characters. We meet Lady Smallwood, and then we meet obviously the villain, Charles Magnuson. And we had to do that scene where he licked her face. And it was vile. We were sat there, it was vile. And there was a number of takes that we didn't use that really made us cringe. You know, it was So obviously we had lots of mints and mouthwash on second, and lots of cleansing wipes for her. Because, you know, with everything else you have to go each take maybe 6-7 times from different angles, so we licked her face, I suppose, about 30 times. She was a great sport, and he was a real gentleman. You know, he looks terrifying there, but he's actually such a lovely man. And with him, with his styling, you know, when we met him, his hair was quite floppy. I think he's a bit of a surfer dude, you know. So we had to harden him up, so his beard's got hard, sharp lines, short, neat. His hair was cut so it was quite neat, never a hair out of place. And sweaty palms. We had to glycerine his palms so that, I don't think we ever did have a close-up, but there was one scene where he was meant to rub his patent shoe and leave a sort of smear of sweat behind. But I don't know if that ever made it, I can't remember if it made it into the programme. But again, it's all those attentions to detail that I think help the cast as well, because they can then, you know, and they do stand around and chat to each other, and then when the camera's ready to roll, they have to switch quite quickly into their character. So, you know, if anything we can do helps that, then obviously we do. And also we have young Sherlock in this episode as well. Lovely Louis had the curls, didn't he? So he got twisted and diffused as well, and he loved it. I had to get rid of some knots first. And also, he didn't have the right colour eyes, so we did have to get contact lenses made for Louis, which again quite often we do with characters to change their appearance. And he was very good at them, and we get a lens technician to come out onto set, especially when there's a child, just to make sure all the health and safety aspects are covered. But he was absolutely brilliant. And we meet lovely Wanda and Timothy as well as you know, Benedict's real parents that play Sherlock's parents, and they were a wonderful couple to work with. So that's covered most of the series, I think, and some of the characters. I'm afraid I haven't got all the photographs to show you, but I've been incredibly busy shooting the new series of Doctor Who. And haven't had a great deal of time to spend getting this ready. So maybe next time I do one, I'll get a lot more pictures there. I have got some pictures of Doctor Who. But this is from the Christmas special. I don't know if you're interested in Doctor Who as well. But a friend of mine was designing, and I just literally the day before finished shooting the last day on Sherlock. And she said, "Can you do me a favour and come and look after Matt?" And I thought, oh brilliant, I can chill out, I haven't got to worry about anything. Matt's great, just do his hair and makeup. And they didn't tell me that he'd gone off and shaved his head for another film role, and had to wear a wig. So literally, I missed my Sherlock wrap party, got on a train to London that night, went to meet Matt at his home with the wig maker, and we got a wig made. And then within a couple of weeks we were shooting the Christmas special. And it was difficult for Matt because obviously his iconic look as the Doctor had this floppy fringe and he wanted to keep putting his hands through it. And I said, you know, wigs don't work that way. You've got to allow me to take control and to dress it for it to look good. And in fact he ended up having 3 wigs because of the aging process. We start off with the iconic looking Doctor, and then he goes to 900 years old. So that was Millennium effects to the aging, and he had a ball cap underneath that wig. So I think that transformation is just brilliant. There's Neil Gordon there from Millennium. So we work quite closely together, which is, again, as well as doing Sherlock, Doctor Who is one of my favourite jobs, and it's the first time I was involved as a supervisor on Series 1. With Christopher Eccleston. I was lucky enough then to go in and out of all the series really, so I've worked with all the Doctors. And now of course we've got Mr. Peter Capaldi, and this series is quite special. I think, obviously I can't give anything away, but it's just brilliant to work on a show where you're working with an effects department. CGI department, working closely with everybody to achieve a final look that is hopefully seamless when you watch it. This is a picture of a little old lady that when I did a thing called Hinterland, and that was her at the beginning, and then that's what I did to her. And again, we had some teeth made for her because in the script it said we visited the murder scene before we found the body, and they found some broken teeth. So then I thought, well, okay then, so when we find the body, she's meant to have some broken teeth. Luckily, she had dentures, this lady, so we took her dentures out and we put some of ours in and had them made so that they had cracked, broken teeth. And her body was found floating in the river and it had been there for a couple of days. So that's what I did to her. Just a nice light note to end on. So I think that's about it, and I think my time is up. I've had a little signal to say that's my time up, and then we can have some questions if you've got any.
Hi there.
Hello.
So my name is Sonia. I'm a huge fan. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you.
I was wondering, on the second episode of The Blind Banker, how many shades of color do you have for all the different people? Because obviously you have the Asian people and you have the Asian makeup in the circus where they go all white. And obviously later on you have also Sergeant Donovan, who is quite a dark shade. So I was wondering, how do you cope with all the different shades and how do you get it right? Do you have a schedule for that? Or do you go from, no, I have to do crazy white, or do you have to do a lot of research and lists where you put on which shade you have to do?
Yeah, we have, usually during the prep time, not always, but we try to have makeup tests. So before we shoot with an actor, and if they're not there at the beginning of the series, then quite often, because a lot of the filming is in Cardiff, the cast generally travel the day before. So that's an opportunity for us to get them in the afternoon, have a makeup test with them. We have a huge kit. There's 3 of us full-time on Sherlock. So between us, we have a budget that we can spend to get the makeup kit in, as well as stuff that we've all sort of gathered over the years. And we often have, in professional palettes, they give you a wide range of skin tones, and you can mix and match. Because even with your regular skin colour, whatever it is, temperature often affects people as well. So if we're filming outside in cold climates, then we might have to warm up a person's foundation that would normally be perfectly fine. And again, if they're in a hot situation, they get flushed, so we might have to pale them down and take some colour away. So we usually have a large kit of colours that we work from and mix together.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that usually the descriptions are very detailed in the script, and I'd like to know how detailed they really are and how much you can use your creativity or work with the subject to make something that looks good on the screen.
Well, that's what's so good about Sherlock. I think because you get the tiniest details that he sees appear in the script. So all those things I take on board. And again, during that prep time, I can sit down with a director and a producer. We have a page turn, we go through the script, we go through all the characters. And quite often, if you've got 4 people in a room, those 4 people will imagine that character in a completely different way. They could be blonde, dark, long hair, short hair. So it's quite often a compromise then. And then once they've cast that character, obviously the actor will have an input as well, because they've read the script and they might be rehearsing themselves to portray this character in a certain way. So we work together. And also I like to sort of ask questions, about where they come from, what lives have they led before, how much money have they got to spend on how they look. Because I think by doing that research into the character, or the history behind that character, you can then make them realistic. So it's not just a case of, oh, you know, that'll do. And I think it does take a lot of work to research the characters.
So you actually use cheap makeup to make them look like you use cheap makeup, or do you just...
Yeah, quite often we do. And especially when we do period drama as well, we try and get the colours to be as authentic as possible. So, you know, working on a 1920s production, there would be no gloss, there would be no glitter, and again, it's all down to research. And obviously you can't use old makeup, but you use modern makeup, but in a technique that makes it look authentic.